Hello. Hey, welcome to Caffe, Lena. Welcome to November. Yay. We have a great feature tonight. We're going to have Meg Kearney be our featured poet, so I'm excited to hear. Let's hear it for Meg. Came in from New Hampshire. We got more people coming in. We're going to have Meg come up and read in just a minute. Then we're going to have a few open mic people come up. I'm going to start off with a poem by Wisława Szymborska called On Death Without Exaggeration. It can't take a joke, find a star, make a bridge. It knows nothing about weaving, mining, farming, building ships, or baking cakes. In our planning for tomorrow, it has the final word, which is always beside the point. It can't even get the things done that are part of its trade. Dig a grave, make a coffin, clean up after itself. Preoccupied with killing, it does the job awkwardly, without system or skill, as though each of us were its first kill. Oh, it has its triumphs, but look at its countless defeats, missed blows, and repeat attempts. Sometimes it isn't strong enough to swat a fly from the air. Many are the caterpillars that have outcrawled it. All those bulbs, pods, tentacles, fins, tracheae, nuptial plumage, and winter fur show that it has fallen behind with its half-hearted work. Ill will won't help, and even our lending a hand with wars and coup d'etat is so far not enough. Hearts beat inside eggs. Babies' skeletons grow. Seeds, hard at work, sprout their first pair of tiny leaves, and sometimes even tall trees fall away. Whoever claims that it's omnipotent is himself living proof that it's not. There's no life that couldn't be immortal if only for a moment. Death always arrives by that very moment too late. In vain it tugs at the knob of the invisible door. As far as you've come, it can't be outdone.
Halloween.
Yeah. All right. On to less death-like things. We're trying to talk about. So, Meg Kearney's newest book, All Mourning the Crows, won the 2020 Washington Prize for Poetry. It also made the Small Press Distribution's poetry bestseller list April through September. It was nominated for a Pushcart Prize and was awarded the Silver Medal in Foreword Review's Indies Book Award for Poetry. She's also the author of An Unkindness of Ravens and Home by Now. We have all three of those books are in the back there. She has published a chapbook of sonnets called The Ice Storm. That is in its third printing. She has an award-winning picture book. Her poetry has been featured on Garrison Keillor's A Writer's Almanac, Ted Kooser's American Life and Poetry, and it was in the 2017 Best American Poetry Anthology, which was edited by Natasah Tretheway. She is the founding director of the Solstice MFA in Creative Writing Program in Massachusetts. Let's give her a huge welcome, Meg Kearney.
All right. Thank you so much, Carol. Really appreciate all you do for poetry here at Caffe Lena for many years, since 2003. So that's a long time to be hosting poets here. This is always such an honor to read it at Caffe Lena, this famous venue. And I'm really bummed that I'm going to miss Livingston Taylor this Friday, but those of you who are close by and are lucky enough to get to hear him, I'll be jealous of you. But thanks to all of you for coming. There's some surprise guests here and some new friends and family, and I just know that I really appreciate all of you. So I'm going to start by telling you a very short poem written by someone named Cameron Penny, and he was just in third grade when he wrote this poem back right after 9/11 in 2001. And I heard this poem at the time, and I started sharing it with people. And I thought, well, as long as all these horrible things are happening in the world, I'll share this poem, and then I won't have to do it anymore. And that day still has not come. And wherever Cameron Penny is, I hope he knows that his words live on, and I hope he's still writing poems. So Cameron Penny says, if you are lucky enough in this life, a window will open on a battlefield between two armies. When the soldiers look into the window, they don't see themselves. They don't see their enemies. They see themselves as children, and they stop fighting, and they go home and go to sleep. When they wake up, the land is well again. So, yeah, Cameron Penny, right? Yeah. I was going to read from the sonnets that Carol mentioned. That's a book called The Ice Storm. It's a heroic crown of sonnets. It's a really crazy form, if anybody knows it. And I'm working on another heroic crown now. But I think I'm just going to read from the latest book, All Morning the Crows. Each poem has the title or the name of a bird. And there's a lot about birds, but the poems really aren't about birds. Birds are kind of the launching point for each of the poems. So I'm going to start with Grackle. Grackle. What a grackle is doing perched on the rail of her baby's crib, noiselessly twitching its tail, she doesn't wonder. The way this baby gleams, he's bound to catch a grackle's eye. Besides, birds have flit in and out of these baby dreams forever. Sapsucker, blue jay, sparrow, kingfisher, titmouse. She just likes to say grackle, a crack your knuckles, hard candy word. In the dream, her baby's black as a grackle, which means when she holds him to the light, he shines, purple and blue, a glittery bronze, silent and nameless. Sometimes he is a she, but always the dream baby is hers. That is the miracle. Her nights of nursery rhymes and sorrow, of yellow blankets and songbirds, enough to break a bough, enough to fell a cradle. Okay, I'm going to read you a long poem. It takes about 8.5 minutes to read. It's called Crow, and it's in 24 very short sections. So I will just pause between each one. crow. It was a crow first taught me how to pry a thing open, snatch a stick to leverage a headstone, or widen the hole in a rotten pine's trunk to get at the story inside. New York, 1999. If our mother had kept you, my newly found sister said, you'd never have gone to college. Wouldn't have done a lot of things you've done. Ornithologists claim crows have an innate sense of fairness. One will scoff at your proffered raisin, for example, if you've given her sister 2 peanuts. If you've given her sister away, that's a fact best kept cached, like the crow's scraps of roadkill and white oak acorns. I wasn't the first apprentice to the crow, first to learn that old term crowbar, handy for getting at grubs and slugs or warding off a man with a brick for a fist. Flip the bar around to hook a beetle, but not a mother, not a sister. If she had kept me? A rooster crows, crows caw. Explain that, and while you're at it, how you came to laugh my mother's laugh, my newly found sister said. I said, I never claimed to be anyone's interpreter. She said, our. I meant to say our mother. Rhode Island, 1960. Hear that? Crows are songbirds too, squawk the nuns in their choir loft. See the one with the little silver cross in her beak, jimmying the blue gold window's latch? That's her, my first mother. Our mother told me, my newly found sister said, she went to Catholic boarding school. I said, well, the convent. Our mother did not speak a secret language. She spoke the language of secrets. As any ex-nun will tell you, the world isn't simply black and white. Consider a plum in a crow's beak in sunlight. Consider the nun's habit sunk to its knees in the confessional's dark. Color of a broken vow, iridescent as a cancer cell. Apprentice? Yes, I told my newly found sister. Ravens? You have to work your way up to ravens. Corpses, cemeteries, what many people think when they hear crows, also known as the pallbearer of souls. By the time I found her, my first mother had already been dead 17 years. Why was I surprised? At her grave, I left a silver earring for the crows to find. Does anyone ever see a scarecrow and think, crow? Cornfields, maybe, or, Father, is that you? If you leave us, the nuns in Bristol told my first mother, you will die a terrible death. But she stole a dress blue as a baby crow's eye, plus 500 nickels. Bought a bus ticket to Boston. The dress? A newly arrived novitiate's. crow's eye blue, code for so sexy it was in the to be burned bin. How did she go from Boston to New York to Tucson? Why didn't she tell us about you? My newly found sister wants to know. She now thinks I have the knowledge of crows. From the crow's nest on her getaway ship, my first mother could have seen nothing useful. Not the snake charmer with his charming snake, or Prince Charming, or how a daughter can shrink to a name on a dotted line, to one wide brown eye on the horizon before falling off the edge of her world. In Scotland, crows are corbies. Granddad never lost his brogue, my newly found sister said. She said she could still hear him singing about the twa corbies who feast on a dead knight's bonny blue eyes. When still in her sister Gabriella disguise, my first mother taught second grade. All those children, not one of them hers. Snack time milk box cost 5 cents. Add it up. Fact. Crows can recognize human faces even years later. The first time I saw my mother in a photograph, I thought it was some sort of trick mirror. "Hello," I said. "I know you." You are she when I last remember her well, my newly found sister said. No place for a ship in Arizona, meaning no daily departures leaving from Boston or New York where I was harbored. Was that the allure? To be far from the Atlantic, its relentless chant, though the desert is its own type of sea. She was given a photograph of me to keep. Grief came in waves, like the heat. On overcast days before clocks, Jews began the Sabbath when crows came home to roost. Crows don't need a timepiece. Sunsets when all the good stuff starts to happen. Arizona, 1983. This is the story I've been told, with a few guesses thrown in. Round and round my first mother's deathbed flew the sisters of Bristol, that murder of crows. I have another daughter, she whispered to her husband, low so her children would not hear. He promised to find me, thinking this would make her live. Told you so, chanted the crows, settling like a wreath at her feet. How did she get to Tucson? Some say the southern route, a brand new convertible. I say she flew. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, now for something completely different. So I was thinking about what poems do I have that are like about music for Caffe, Lena. So this is Scarlet Tanager. It's dated 1893. Back in the 19th century, a lot of the Czech people settled out in farming communities in Iowa. And in 1893, the composer Dvorak was living in New York City, spent the summer out in Spillville, Iowa, writing music and being among his fellow Czechs. So I will mention Dvorak here. Scarlet Tanager. After too much New York City noise, off-key and birdless, Dvorak rode out to Iowa, that little Bohemia, to find himself a little scherzo. He'd already written his requiem, married his true love's sister. What he needed then was something molto vivace, something quirky, full of offbeats and cross rhythms, something American. Enter the Scarlet Tanager. No matter, Thoreau disliked the bird's harsh notes, and his own wife said it sounded like a robin with a sore throat. From an oak's green canopy came the high, interrupting strain of a violin on fire. Next came the second violin, a viola, a cello, a gapped pentatonic composed by nature, a scarlet-plumed opus, folk-like but stranger. Next came the American quartet in F major. Okay, Wren. We're coming up on the holidays, people, believe it or not. It's coming, like it or not. So I'll mention St. Stephen's Day for the Celtic people in the room. It happens the day after Christmas, so December 26th. And traditionally in Celtic communities, mummers, like actors with masks, would go house to house with a wren, usually a dead wren or a stuffed wren. Usually, if they do it these days, it's a stuffed wren instead of a real dead wren. This is wren. It's a winter wren, mouse-like and secretive, that's made a home in the pocket of my old canvas coat. Hanging on a nail inside the tool shed, that coat's kept a couple of generations dry. Why not another? Besides, the bird's nest solves a mystery. I'd thought I'd heard a song sparrow, that hard two-syllable kimp, kimp call. But I couldn't place those high, tinkling warbles tucked deep in the ferns and thick underbrush beyond the weeping willow. Once I thought I'd heard God calling from there. That turned out to be an uncommon bird, too. At least it didn't appear in any guide. One book says it's not uncommon to find a house wren nesting in your coat pocket. A winter wren is favored by mummers, those straw boys of Dingle playing penny whistles through their motley masks, begging a tuppence to bury the bird on St. Stephen's Day. Why did the Irish martyr a wren to honor St. Stephen? You'll have to ask them. William Blake warned against it, but they aren't about to let some Englishman mar a custom, especially, or even if he was a great poet. Which brings me back to this wren in my pocket. Its name might come from the Swedish Vrensk, uncastrated, or the Anglo-Saxon vren, lascivious. prostitutes were once called wrens. Another reason why I'll leave this nest alone, not feeling righteous enough to cast the first stone. Thanks. Thank you. I'll read just 3 more. Some more music in this one. Loon. I bought a cassette tape of loon calls so I could speak their language that summer I camped on Russet Pond. This was the 80s, so cassette tapes were the thing. Side A was for "Where are you? I am here," or "I am hungry" calls, meaning hoots, wails, and peeps. Side B was for aggression and distress, yodels and tremolos. The latter, a kind of alarm laugh that led to the saying, "crazy as a loon." Kids today don't have the chance to choose between side A and B. B, the poor man's intermission, or a sleeper song's second chance. But now I'm talking 45 records, 1972 with Deeper and Deeper on the B-side of Billy Don't Be a Hero, which was more a tremolo than a yodel, a sentimental, romantic, anti-war song that slew my heart in 3rd grade. No one I knew liked Deeper and Deeper, though on Russet Pond I learned that loons with their solid bones can dive deeper and longer than most birds. And I found I preferred wails to tremolos, wails being the kind of call I'd perfected myself by then. Thanks. Okay, so this is ibis, and I'll mention Thoth, and that's not me with a lisp. Thoth was the Egyptian god of wisdom and learning, and he had the body of a man and the head of an ibis. And also certain ibises are known to croak like ravens. Ibis. Her first mistake was trusting a god with the body of a man and the head of an ibis. People said he was old and bald and croaked like a raven, desired only shrimp and flies. But no, he was fine and smelled of salt. He knew her names, the one she was born with and the one she was given. Knowledge, he said, is a pond awake with fish. When he stripped her on its mossy bank and lured her in, she understood. Lily pads tangled around their knees. Her body was a map his hands had drawn. Beyond clear blue sky, she saw the moon, full, and stars in their constellations. If only she'd been satisfied. Instead, she tugged at his arm, insisting. For wisdom, he had to carry her to shore, lay her down. She imagined the earth would open, reveal its golden center. But his bill was sharp. She thought he would be gentle, yet with each peck, he drove her deeper, deeper, until she knew he had never truly been a wading bird or bastard child. He was God of a heaven where all the angels' bodies are broken. Thank you so much. You've been a really great audience. I'm going to end with Duckling Swan. Duckling Swan. Before I was born, I was biggest of the clutch, already a burden and slow to hatch. When I at last smashed my way into this world, my mother's tongue unfurled a hiss. Siblings snickered and jeered. Who could love an ugly girl, smothered in egg wax, gray as the curl on a drowned man's lip? Even cleaned up, my down was ash. I was the art of my mother's mistake, the ache in her dinosaur heart. I was the winter, the ice over early, no fish in the pond, and the hunter's sure shot. I had nowhere to go when they drove me out. I went like something dead in Coyote's mouth, like something a cat mauled, then tossed about. I starved through the full moons, slept in the snow. But by spring, a lake was aglow with my gleaming. In spring, I returned and blinded them all. Thank you. Thanks so much.